I want you to picture a scenario for a second. Actually, you probably don't even need to imagine it because there is a very, very high probability you are living it right now. Or, I mean, maybe you just barely survived it.
Right, yeah, we've all been there in some capacity.
Exactly. So picture someone who's doing absolutely everything right according to, well, society's meticulously demanding standards. They are putting in these just grueling, bone-crushing 60-hour work weeks.
Oh yeah, sacrificing the weekends?
Yes. Missing the family dinners, skipping the gym, and basically, functioning on maybe 4 hours of sleep and pure, unadulterated caffeine.
And the crazy thing is, they are completely convincing themselves that this is just a season, like it's just a phase.
Right, I just need to get through this month lie we tell ourselves.
Exactly. They are running this ultimate marathon, completely certain that once they cross this very specific finish line, whether that's hitting a revenue goal or getting a vice president title or finally closing on that house, the stress is just going to magically evaporate.
Which is the exact delusion, right? They literally believe the finish line is this geographical location where a magical switch gets flipped and they finally get to exhale.
But it never happens like that.
Never. So this person pushes through the exhaustion. They endure all the friction. And against all odds, they actually reach the summit, they get the title, the money hits the bank account, the keys are physically in their hand.
And this is where the crash happens.
This is the massive challenge, the absolute crushing confusion of this whole scenario. Because instead of that promised bliss, right, instead of that profound, deep breath peace they've been mortgaging their life for, they feel something else entirely.
They feel completely hollow. I mean, it is this profound, terrifying emptiness.
Yeah.
And the absolute tragedy of it is that almost immediately, like within days or even hours of hitting that massive goal, a new panic sets in.
Or the maintenance panic.
Exactly. It's this acute anxiety about how they're going to maintain this new baseline. Or worse, it's an immediate, desperate pivot to the next goal because, well, this one clearly didn't fix the internal void.
Right. They realize they're just trapped on a perpetual hamster wheel. They're trading their literal finite life energy for a delayed happiness that, mathematically speaking, never actually arrives.
Never arrives. It's a broken formula.
Which brings us to the core mission of our in-depth exploration today. Have you ever felt this exact kind of exhaustion? This feeling of, look, I followed the blueprint, I did all the things I was supposed to do, so why do I feel so burnt out and empty?
It's the most common question I think people eventually ask themselves.
Definitely. So today, we are analyzing a massive stack of fascinating concepts. We're looking at dense, highly analytical frameworks on reality creation, quantum mechanics, and personal development. And we're doing this to answer a truly staggering question.
And it's a big one.
It is. What if our default operating system for success, the one we are taught from the very moment we can walk, is actually backwards? And I don't just mean philosophically backwards, I mean mathematically and physically backwards.
Yeah, the radical premise we are looking at today suggests that we can literally get years of our life back. We can, in a sense, collapse time.
Collapse time. I love that phrasing.
Right. But to do that, to stop wasting decades on that hollow hamster wheel, we have to entirely flip how we interact with reality itself.
Okay, so where do we even start with that?
Well, the prerequisite for that is unlearning the fundamental rules of the physical universe that we were all taught in, elementary school science class.
Which I have to admit sounds completely wild at first glance. I mean, we are talking about altering our core understanding of how the universe operates.
It sounds like sci-fi, but it's pure physics.
Right. But think about it logically. If hustling harder and grinding yourself down to the bone is constantly failing to produce lasting fulfillment, then we must be fundamentally misunderstanding the game board.
We are trying to play chess using the rules of checkers.
Exactly. So let's look at the actual physics of reality according to these frameworks. Why are we playing the wrong game?
We have to start by looking at the baseline paradigm most of us operate under. You and I, and pretty much everyone listening, navigate the world using a classical physical-first paradigm.
Meaning we trust what we can touch.
Exactly. We look in the mirror and we think, okay, we are solid, physical beings walking around in a solid, rigid physical world. We treat physical matter as the absolute base reality.
Sure, because if I knock on my wooden desk, it feels pretty solid.
It does. But a scientifically verified fact completely shatters this. Physical matter makes up an infinitesimally small fraction of reality.
Wait, how small are we talking?
We're talking about less than 0.00001% of what exists.
Oh, wow. So practically nothing.
Practically nothing. Over 99.9% of our reality of the entire universe is actually empty space and non-physical energy.
That's hard to even conceptualize.
It is. Some frameworks refer to it as light, others as pure consciousness or infinite information fields.
Okay, let me pause you right there because that is a massive conceptual leap.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
It is. Because if you think about it, we spend 100% of our waking energy stressing over and trying to physically manipulate the 0.00001% of reality.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
completely ignoring the vast, massive ocean of energy that actually makes up the universe. That alone is a paradigm-shattering perspective.
And it gets crazier, because this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment you do in a dorm room.
Right, there's actual science here.
We have to talk about the physics experiments that back this up, specifically the famous double slit experiment, because it absolutely proves that reality doesn't behave the way our eyes tell us it does.
I remember hearing about this, but break it down for us. Why is this experiment so important?
This experiment is the absolute linchpin for understanding the mechanics of reality. So imagine a setup where physicists are firing tiny particles. Let's visualize them as little physical marbles of matter, like electrons.
Okay, tiny physical marbles. Got it.
Right, and they are firing them at a solid barrier that has two vertical slits cut into it. Behind that barrier is a back wall, like a detector screen, to catch whatever passes through those slits.
Makes sense? It's like throwing paintballs through a fence with missing boards.
Perfect analogy. Now, if you fire solid marbles or paintballs through two slits, you logically expect a very specific outcome.
Yeah, you expect two distinct clumps of marbles hitting the back wall directly behind the two slits. You throw a baseball through a hole, it hits the wall directly behind the hole. It's just linear cause and effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's classical physics. But when physicists fire these incredibly small pieces of matter through the two slits, they did not get two clumps on the back wall.
Wait, really? What do they get?
Instead, they got an interference pattern.
Okay, and for anyone who might be rusty on wave mechanics, an interference pattern looks like a series of multiple bright and dark bands spread all across the back wall, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's the exact pattern you get when you drop two pebbles into a pond and the ripples hit each other, amplifying in some spots and canceling out in others.
That's it. But here is the massive kicker. They weren't firing continuous waves of water. They were firing individual, distinct particles of matter, one at a time.
Wait, one at a time?
One by one, they fired single electrons. There was literally nothing for them to bump into or interfere with.
So how is there a pattern?
That's the mystery. Over time, as these single particles hit the back screen, they still built up that wave interference pattern.
That makes absolutely no sense.
I know. Think about what that implies. It suggests something utterly baffling. A single physical particle somehow acts like a wave of pure, infinite potential.
So it's not a solid thing until it hits the wall.
Right. It seemingly goes through both slits simultaneously, interferes with itself, and then only chooses a single physical location to land on when it finally hits the back wall. It behaves like a wave of possibility until the absolute final moment.
Which is already crazy enough, matter acting like a wave of potential. But, physicists are inherently skeptical, right? They weren't satisfied with this mystery.
Not at all. They wanted to know exactly which slit the individual particle was going through. So they altered the experiment.
What did they do?
They placed a highly sensitive measuring device, basically an observer, right at the slits to simply watch and record which specific slit the particle traveled through.
Okay, just watching it. Nothing physical is blocking it.
Exactly, just extracting information. And the moment they introduced observation, the entire outcome changed.
Oh, wow.
The electrons stopped acting like waves of infinite potential. They immediately went back to behaving like solid, predictable little marbles.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
So the interference pattern disappeared.
Completely vanished. The back wall showed just two solid clumps.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate here because this is where people get tripped up. How does a particle know it's being watched? Does a mechanical camera or a sensor count as consciousness?
That is the crucial question.
Because the leap from measuring device to consciousness creates reality feels pretty steep to me.
It does feel steep, but it's not about a camera having a soul. It's about the extraction of information.
Meaning what, exactly?
In quantum mechanics, the moment you introduce a system that extracts information, the moment you essentially demand a definitive answer from the universe about a location, The wave of infinite potential collapses into a singular, defined physical state.
So the act of looking forces reality to make a choice.
Yes. Observation, whether through a human eye or a tool built by human intention, collapses potential into physical reality.
So the mere act of observation forces the infinite to become finite.
It does. And if that isn't staggering enough, consider a later variation called the delayed choice experiment.
There's more.
Oh, it gets wilder. Physicists figured, what if we let the particle pass through the slits as a wave without watching it, but we decide to turn on our measuring device after it has passed the slits, but before it hits the back wall?
Oh, so they are trying to trick the universe.
Exactly.
They wait until the electron has ostensibly already done its weird wave thing, and then they peak at the last possible millisecond.
And the results defied everything we thought we knew about time and cause and effect.
What happened?
When the choice to observe was delayed until after the particle had already passed the slits, the particle still formed a clump pattern on the back wall, not an interference pattern.
Wait, how is that possible? If it already went through as a wave?
It was as if the particle retroactively decided to behave as a solid object from the very beginning, even though the decision to observe it happened after the fact.
My brain is officially melting.
I told you. The observation in the present literally reached backward in time to determine the prior state of the physical matter.
Okay, we need to synthesize this. What does this highly complex quantum mechanics experiment actually mean for you, the exhausted listener who is just trying to get a promotion or build a successful business or, stop stressing about rent?
It means that observation, which is a function of consciousness, focus, and directed energy, is the actual mechanism that collapses infinite potential into physical reality.
So the physical world isn't the starting line.
Right. That dense matter making up 0.00001% of existence is not the starting point. It is the end result. It is a derivative.
Okay.
The outer world of physical form is merely a delayed, dense echo of the inner world of consciousness and observation. Therefore, reality creation does not start in the physical realm. It ends there.
I have an analogy for this. Tell me if this translates the physics into everyday life.
Let's hear it.
So if we try to force success purely through physical grinding, through the 60-hour work weeks, the endless emails, the forced networking, we're trying to manipulate less than 1% of the universe.
Exactly.
We are completely ignoring the 99.9% of the energetic conscious field that actually dictates the outcome. It's like trying to steer a massive thousands of tons cargo ship by jumping into the freezing ocean, swimming behind the massive steel rudder, and trying to physically kick it left or right with your bare feet.
That sounds miserable.
It's agonizing. Meanwhile, you could literally just walk up to the bridge, sit in the captain's chair, and effortlessly turn the steering wheel.
That analogy perfectly captures the inefficiency of our default operating system. Kicking the rudder is exhausting, painful, and ultimately it barely moves the ship.
Right. It's hustle culture in a nutshell.
It is a fundamental misunderstanding of leverage. Consider how much of your daily anxiety, your chronic stress, and your physical exhaustion comes from trying to force physical matter to move with physical effort alone.
So much of it. Most of it.
You are trying to force the universe into compliance using the weakest, slowest tool at your disposal.
Okay, so if consciousness creates reality, and if our inner state is the steering wheel, we have to ask the obvious question. How are most people currently directing their consciousness?
Poorly. Very poorly.
Right. If I'm at the wheel, why am I steering my life straight into an iceberg of burnout?
Because we have been programmed with flawed formulas for living. The frameworks we are analyzing outline two primary paradigms that dictate how most of society operates.
Let's get into those. What's the first one?
The first is what we can call the have-do-be paradigm. This is the ultimate victim mode.
Have do be. Okay.
This is the ingrained belief that you must have something first, you
Yeah.
must have a specific amount of money, you must have extra time, you must have the perfect partner before you can do what you actually want to do in order to finally be happy or fulfilled or peaceful.
Oh, right. We hear this constantly. If I only had $1 million, then I could travel the world and then I would be happy.
Exactly. That's the have-do-be trap.
Why is it a trap?
The profound danger of this paradigm is that it leaves you entirely paralyzed, waiting for an external savior. You are basically sitting on the sidelines of your own life, expecting the universe to arbitrarily hand you a winning lottery ticket.
Which doesn't happen.
Right. And because you feel powerless, you become incredibly susceptible to negative programming. You absorb the fears of the media and the cynicism of your peers because you truly believe your internal state is entirely dependent on the chaotic, external physical world.
You are a ship with no sail, completely at the mercy of the weather.
Beautifully put, yes.
And clearly, the universe does not reward passive waiting. So a lot of people realize this doesn't work, and they graduate to the slightly upgraded but still completely flawed second paradigm.
Right, the do-have-be formula.
This is the person from our intro narrative. This is the hustler.
The do-have-be person realizes they can't just wait around. They decide they must do something. They take massive action, they grind, they suffer, they put in the 60 hours.
Kick the rudder.
They kick the rudder hard. They believe that through immense physical doing, they will acquire and have the things they desire, the cars, the house, the status.
And they convince themselves that once they have those things, then they will finally be happy, secure, and worthy.
It is a significant upgrade from the victim mindset, I'll give it that, because at least they are taking responsibility, they are generating momentum.
But the problem is, it creates a profoundly hollow life.
Oh, completely hollow.
Because the beingness, the joy, the peace, the actual feeling of fulfillment is perpetually postponed. It is always contingent on the next achievement.
And here is the real mechanical flaw. Because you are taking action from a state of lack, from a state of, I am not enough until I get this, the results you manifest carry that exact same stressful, hollow frequency.
So you build a successful business, but running it feels like a nightmare.
Exactly. Which brings us to the absolute paradigm shift, the formula that actually leverages the physics we just discussed.
Let's hear the solution.
The solution is the be-do-have formula. This is the creator mode. It flips the entire traditional model upside down.
Okay, be-do-have.
To collapse time and bend reality, you must access the emotional state, the identity, the beingness first.
Okay, I have to stop you. I'm going to push back hard here because my logical brain is throwing up massive red flags.
I figured it would.
And I know you listening to this are likely feeling the exact same skepticism because this sounds dangerously close to magical thinking.
It's not, but I understand why it sounds like it.
Well, let's look at it. If I just be a millionaire on my couch, if I sit there, close my eyes, and feel intensely abundant and rich, my mortgage company does not care about my frequency.
No, they don't.
They care about my check. Are you telling me I don't have to do anything? The money just falls through the ceiling because I feel good.
I am so glad you were pushing back on this because it is the single biggest misconception that causes people to dismiss these frameworks entirely.
It's the just think positive trap.
Right. Be-do-have is absolutely not a license for apathy, laziness, or delusion. It is about understanding causality and leverage. The vital concept here is the difference between desperate action and inspired action.
What's the difference?
When you authentically align your internal state with a high-frequency emotion like deep fulfillment, absolute abundance, or joy, you are fundamentally altering your energetic signature.
Right.
And when you exist in that elevated state, you physically cannot sit still on the couch.
Because the energy demands expression in the physical world.
Precisely. You will be compelled to move. You will receive ideas, hunches, and sudden urges that feel deeply exciting and totally logical to that new identity.
So the doing still happens.
Yes, but here's the difference. Instead of throwing a million desperate, exhausted actions at the wall out of panic and hoping one sticks, you are taking a few highly calibrated, profoundly efficient actions that hit the target perfectly.
Ah, I see.
Your doing this is born out of joy and certainty, not out of fear. And the natural, effortless byproduct of taking action from that elevated state is that you manifest the physical results they have.
So instead of swimming behind the boat kicking the rudder, you are calmly turning the wheel. The effort is still there, but the friction is gone.
The friction completely disappears.
And the timeline shifts dramatically, doesn't it? The hustler spends 10 years trying to force the physical matter to yield.
But these frameworks suggest that if you can maintain this be-do-have state, if you can sustain what is termed concentrated particle flow.
Which means consistently holding that elevated emotional energy and taking those inspired actions.
Right. If you hold that, it only takes about 6 to 8 weeks to begin seeing dramatic, indisputable physical changes in your reality.
Wait, 6 to 8 weeks to collapse what might otherwise take a decade of grinding.
That is the time travel aspect. By mastering the inner frequency, you compress the time it takes for the outer world to reflect it.
But that brings up an incredibly frustrating reality.
It does that.
Well, if the be-do-have formula is this mathematically superior way to operate, why is it so incredibly hard to just choose to feel good?
Oh, the million-dollar question.
Right. Why can't I just wake up on a Tuesday and say, today I am going to purely embody the feeling of massive success and unconditional joy and actually sustain it? Because let's be honest, most of us default right back to stress, panic, and annoyance by 10 a.m.
To understand why it's so difficult, we have to look at the psychological machinery we are operating with. We have to examine childhood programming.
Okay, let's dig into that.
From the moment you were born until about age 7, your brain operates primarily in a theta wave state.
Explain that like I'm 5. What does a theta wave state actually mean for a child's brain?
It means your brain is essentially a highly receptive, uncritical sponge. In a theta state, the barrier between the conscious and subconscious mind is largely non-existent.
So there's no filter.
None. You do not have the analytical capacity to look at an adult and say, wait, that's not objectively true. So during these formative years, you absorb the limiting beliefs, the anxieties, the financial fears of your parents, your teachers, your society, and the media, absolutely without any filter.
Wow.
And a belief is defined in a beautifully simple way. A belief is simply a thought you keep thinking until it becomes automatic.
So if you grow up in a house where the adults are constantly saying, money doesn't grow on trees, or life is a constant struggle, or who do you think you are to dream that big? You don't evaluate those statements.
You can't evaluate them.
They just bypass your logic and hardwire themselves directly into your subconscious operating system as absolute, undeniable physical laws of the universe.
Exactly. And that hardwiring creates a profound filtration system in your brain as an adult. It fundamentally alters what you are capable of perceiving.
There is an incredibly vivid analogy for how this filtration system works, and I want to spend some real time unpacking it because it takes this abstract neuroscience and makes it just painfully relatable.
It's my favorite analogy for this.
Imagine your conscious mind, the part of you that makes deliberate choices, sets goals, and processes what is right in front of you is an ultra-exclusive, high-end VIP nightclub.
Okay, a VIP club.
And outside the doors of this club stands a massive, unyielding bouncer. In neurological terms, this bouncer is your reticular activating system, or the RAS.
The RAS is a very real network of neurons located in the brainstem. It is essentially an evolutionary survival mechanism.
Why do we need a bouncer in our brain?
Because every second, millions of bits of data bombard your senses, sights, sounds, temperatures, peripheral movements. If your conscious mind had to process all of it, you would instantly go mad from sensory overload.
You just short circuit.
Exactly. So the primary job of the RAS bouncer is to filter this massive line of data, deciding what gets passed up into the club of your conscious awareness and what gets completely ignored.
But the bouncer doesn't just guess what to let in, right?
No, he takes strict orders.
He takes orders from the club owner, which is your subconscious mind. He only lets in thoughts, evidence, and perceptions that perfectly match the club's current internal vibe, which is dictated by your existing subconscious beliefs.
Take that a step further. If your subconscious club's vibe is defined by those childhood programs, if the vibe is life is a constant exhausting struggle, then the bouncer is going to aggressively throw out any evidence to the contrary.
So if an incredible opportunity for easy success walks up to the door,
The bouncer says, nope, you don't fit the vibe, you're not on the list, and rejects it. You won't even consciously perceive the opportunity.
it'll look like a scam or too much work, or you'll just literally look right past it.
Exactly. But a minor inconvenience, a frustrating email, a delayed flight, a rude comment.
Oh, the bouncer loves those.
The bouncer unclips the velvet rope and says, come right on in, you match our struggle aesthetic perfectly.
That is terrifying. We see this exact mechanism replicated in technology now, actually. Social media algorithms act exactly like external bouncers.
That's a great point.
You linger on one negative, outrage-inducing video, and the algorithm says, oh, the vibe of the club is anger today, and suddenly your entire feed is filled with reasons to be furious. Your reality is curated by what you pay attention to.
It's the exact same principle. The classic psychological example of this is the red car phenomenon.
Right. Everyone knows this one.
You decide you really like a specific bright red sports car. You've never noticed them before. But the moment you assign value to it, the moment it becomes part of your desired internal vibe, you give the bouncer a new instruction.
Suddenly, the bouncer lets that visual data into the club.
And the next day, you see that exact red sports car 3 times on the highway, parked at the grocery store, everywhere.
And your physical reality didn't magically spawn more red cars overnight. Your environment didn't change at all.
Your bouncer just finally started letting the data into your conscious awareness. That is the power of the RAS. It proves that your brain is actively designed to prove your subconscious beliefs correct.
So the fix for this isn't just wishing for a better life or putting a sticky note on your mirror.
No, sticky notes won't rewire the bouncer. You are in a state of infinite action. You are constantly broadcasting a frequency 24/7. Your thoughts are emitting a signature.
Right.
To train a new bouncer, to change the instructions at the door of the club, you cannot rely solely on passive hacks.
Right. You can't just listen to an affirmation tape while you sleep and expect your entire life to change if you spend your 16 waking hours panicking about bills and complaining about your boss.
It's like eating a salad while you're asleep and eating fast food all day and wondering why you aren't healthy.
That's hilarious, but it's so true.
Passive programming is a tool, but it is not enough to overcome decades of hardwiring. You must actively, ruthlessly intercept negative thoughts during your waking hours.
How do you do that practically?
When the bouncer lets a thought of lack or fear into the club, you have to consciously step in, turn the music off, and physically escort that thought back out the door. You have to become a strict participant in your own mental diet.
There is a core mantra regarding this process, and I think it might be the most challenging, confronting sentence we discussed today.
What is it?
You must have more loyalty to your vision than to your current physical circumstances.
Oh, that is a profound and intensely difficult mandate.
It is, because think about how people actually operate. Most people are immensely, fiercely loyal to their current physical circumstances.
They absolutely are.
They look at their empty bank account, they look at their stressful job, they look at their failing relationship, and they let those physical facts completely dictate their internal emotional state.
And because the physical is just a delayed reflection of the internal, reacting to the present physical reality just guarantees you will recreate more of the exact same reality in the future.
You lock yourself in a closed feedback loop.
Exactly. Having loyalty to the vision means maintaining the high frequency of your desired future, regardless of how terrifying or messy the present moment looks.
But how do we actually do that? Let's assume you decide to take control of the bouncer. You are standing at the door ready to actively curate what gets into your conscious mind. What exactly should we be letting into the club?
You have to give them a clear picture.
Right. How do we clearly define this vision so the bouncer knows the new rules? Because if I just say, I want a good life, the bouncer has no idea what that actually means.
Vague instructions produce vague results. This brings us to the absolute necessity of a definite chief aim.
A definite chief aim.
Yes. You must have singular, laser-like focus. Think about it in terms of directed energy. If you have a finite amount of water, which is your daily energetic bandwidth, and you try to water 15 different seeds at once, you spread the resource so thin that you practically guarantee none of them will grow to maturity.
You're just making mud. You're dabbling in 15 things and mastering none of them.
Exactly. You must direct your light, your consciousness, your concentrated flow toward a singular, clearly defined aim. You have to pick one primary goal to focus your frequency on until it manifests in the physical world.
But picking that goal is where the self-sabotage kicks in. Because if I tell someone to pick a goal, they usually swing wildly in one of two directions.
They really do.
They either pick something so huge it terrifies them or something so small it bores them. How do we find the target that actually works?
You have to find the sweet spot, a goal to actually be effective and not trigger your own subconscious defense mechanisms must simultaneously satisfy two completely different, often opposing parts of your psyche,
Which are?
the heart and the mind.
Break that down for us.
It has to excite the heart, meaning it must be emotionally resonant and thrilling, but it must also be entirely believable to the logical mind. And balancing those two is really delicate.
The ladder analogy perfectly illustrates why this is so difficult. Let's walk through that.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine you are standing at the absolute bottom of a tall ladder looking up. Your life currently is rung number 1. Now, you want to transform your reality, so you set your definite chief aim for the 20th rung.
A massive jump.
You declare, I am going to make $10 million this year, when you are currently struggling to make rent every month. Now, the heart loves this. The heart is thrilled. It's incredibly excited to imagine that freedom.
But the mind.
Exactly. The logical mind, that bouncer at the door of the club, looks at the 20th rung and immediately rejects it as statistically impossible and fundamentally unsafe.
And the moment the logical mind rejects the goal, it cuts off the energetic fuel. You begin to experience massive doubt, imposter syndrome, and crippling procrastination.
You sabotage the effort.
Because your subconscious does not actually believe the destination is attainable, so it refuses to waste caloric energy pursuing it. It views the massive leap as a literal threat to your stability.
On the flip side, if you aim too low, if you aim for rung number 2, your mind totally believes it. It's completely safe.
But your heart is completely bored.
There is no emotional excitement to generate the elevated frequency required for the be-do-have paradigm. You can't generate inspired action for something you don't even care about.
Which is why the sweet spot is reaching for the best next thing. Maybe you are on rung 1 and you aim for rung 4.
So it's a stretch.
It is a stretch. It requires you to elevate your identity and do things differently, which provides the emotional fuel to excite the heart. But it is close enough that your logical mind looks at it and says, if I stretch, if I focus, I can get a grip on that.
That makes a lot of sense.
And here is the true magic of the sweet spot. Once you achieve that 4th rung, your baseline of reality expands. Suddenly, rung 8 doesn't look so impossible anymore. Your belief expands exponentially with every calibrated win.
You build a track record of undeniable proof with your own subconscious. You show the bouncer that the new rules are safe.
Exactly.
But even when you pick the perfect sweet spot, the actual day-to-day process of changing your identity is physically uncomfortable for the brain.
Very uncomfortable.
The jungle pathway analogy is probably the most practical way to understand this neurological resistance.
It is a brilliant visualization of neuroplasticity. Imagine your brain, the physical network of neurons, is a dense, wild jungle.
Okay, a wild jungle.
Your old identity, the have-do-be victim or the do-have-be hustler, is a wide, smoothly paved, multi-lane highway running right through the center of that jungle. You have driven down this road thousands of times since childhood.
So the neural pathways are thick, insulated, efficient, and incredibly easy to travel.
Your brain loves this paved road because the brain's primary evolutionary mandate is to conserve energy. Traveling the paved road of your old limiting beliefs requires zero conscious effort.
Worrying about money is automatic. Doubting yourself is automatic. It requires no calories.
Now, your new identity, the vision you are trying to be loyal to, is not a paved road. It is an overgrown, thick, vine-choked path through the deepest, darkest part of the jungle.
So it's hard to walk.
To walk this new path of abundance or peace or supreme confidence, you have to consciously take out a machete and hack away at the resistance. It is physically and mentally exhausting.
Your nervous system actually rebels against it because it feels unfamiliar, requires massive amounts of energy, and therefore registers as unsafe.
So, when people try to change their lives, they start walking the jungle path. They wake up on Monday, they hold the frequency, they take inspired action, they do it for 3 days.
They hack away, they feel the exhaustion of conscious effort.
And then Thursday rolls around, they get tired, and their brain says, this is taking way too much energy, let's just go back to the paved road of anxiety, it's so much easier. And they abandon the new identity.
Which is why the operational rule here is choose, don't change.
That is so important. Choose, don't change.
Do not waste your precious energetic bandwidth trying to fight, tear up, or dynamite the old paved road. Don't go to war with your old identity or beat yourself up for having negative thoughts.
Right, because when you fight the old road, you are still focusing on it, which feeds it your energy and keeps the neural pathways alive.
Instead, simply choose, moment by moment, to walk the new jungle path.
And if you do this consistently, something incredible happens biologically. Through simple neglect, the old paved road stops being used.
And nature abhors a vacuum.
It does, and it loves efficiency. The jungle begins to reclaim the old road. Vines cover the asphalt. The neural connections of your old fears literally begin to prune themselves away because they are no longer firing.
Meanwhile, your daily foot traffic on the new path clears the brush, packing down the dirt until that becomes your new, effortless paved highway.
But getting there requires an incredibly strict mental diet. We have to view everything we consume through the lens of this jungle.
Absolutely everything. The media you watch, the news you read, the audio you listen to, the peers you spend your time gossiping with, they are either handing you a sharper machete to help clear the new path, or they are laying fresh asphalt on the old, fearful road.
There is no neutral input.
That is such a harsh reality check. Mindlessly scrolling through doom-laden news or spending hours complaining with cynical coworkers isn't just a harmless way to pass the time or vent. You are actively maintaining the superhighway of your old, miserable identity. Intellectual and emotional junk food literally keeps you physically trapped on the old road. You cannot offshore the responsibility of your mental diet. If you are poisoning the well daily, you cannot be surprised when the water makes you sick. You are the sole architect of the inputs.
It's all on you.
Okay, so let's walk through the absolute hardest part of this entire process. Let's say you, listening right now, are doing this. You are doing the hard work. You have found the sweet spot. You are hacking through the jungle, maintaining your mental diet, fiercely curating the bouncer at the club, and holding on to that elevated frequency.
You are feeling great internally.
And then catastrophe strikes. You lose your primary client, his car breaks down and empties your savings, a supposedly stable friendship blows up in your face, a pipe bursts in your apartment.
Everything falls apart.
Everything in your physical life seemingly falls apart, precisely when you started doing everything right. Why does this happen? Because this is the exact moment 99% of people throw their hands up and quit.
It is the ultimate test of your loyalty to the vision. And it brings us to the climax of the mechanics we are analyzing. The universal law of balance and harmony.
Okay, what does this law dictate?
It dictates that the universe will constantly, inexorably seek to balance your inner energetic world with your outer physical world. They must match. They cannot exist in dissonance for long.
But wait, if they're feeling great and holding a high frequency internally, why is the physical world responding with chaos? Shouldn't the universe immediately respond by matching the high frequency with rainbows, easy money, and perfect relationships?
That is the trap of linear expectation. You have to remember the physics we discussed at the very beginning.
The slow, dense matter.
Exactly. Physical matter is the densest, slowest, most stubborn form of vibration in reality. It is heavy, and it is barred down by the construct of time and space. Your inner world, your thoughts and emotions are light, fast, and instantly malleable.
So when you elevate your internal state, you create a massive energetic mismatch.
Right. Your inner frequency is suddenly operating at a 10, but your physical circumstances are still humming at the old, low frequency of a 3.
The universe looks at that mismatch and says, this violates the law of balance. We need to fix this immediately.
Yes. And as the heavy physical world begins the slow, arduous process of shifting to match your new high frequency, it often starts by forcefully removing the physical elements that no longer resonate with where you are going.
It has to clear out the old energy to make space.
That client who constantly drained you and underpaid you, the universe removes them. That relationship that subtly kept you playing small, it fractures because it literally cannot withstand the new frequency.
The old structures must collapse before new ones can be built.
It's unavoidable.
It's like remodeling a house. You buy an old, run-down, moldy property with the grand vision of turning it into a pristine, modern mansion.
You have the blueprint.
But before it looks anything like a mansion, you have to bring in the sledgehammers. You have to tear out the rotting drywall, rip up the stained carpets, and knock down load-bearing walls.
It gets ugly.
For weeks or even months, the house looks infinitely worse than when you bought it. It looks like a total disaster zone of dust, exposed wires, and debris.
But you don't panic, usually.
Right, because you trust the blueprint. But in life, instead of trusting the blueprint, people look at the rubble, panic, and say, oh my God, I've ruined the house. And they stop building, they fire the contractors and try to live in the rubble.
That is precisely what happens energetically to most people. When the physical world gets messy during the clearing out phase, people panic.
They look at their current physical circumstances, the loss of the job, the unexpected expense, the isolation.
And they drop their internal vibration right back down to fear, anxiety, and victimhood to match the messy reality. And the universe responds, great, the inner and outer are back in alignment, balance restored.
And the growth completely stops. You are left sitting in the dust.
To succeed, to actually bend reality, you have to endure the demolition phase without losing your mind.
You must stay in that elevated state, deliberately and uncomfortably out of balance with your current physical reality, until the physical world finally finishes its remodel and rises to meet you. You have to have more loyalty to the blueprint than to the dust on the floor.
And the final, most crucial piece of navigating this demolition phase is surrendering the how.
Surrendering the how, what does that mean?
When you elevate your state, your ego, which operates entirely on past experiences, desperately wants to micromanage the transition. It wants a linear, step-by-step spreadsheet of exactly how the new reality will manifest.
Right. I will get the money by getting a promotion on Tuesday from this specific boss.
But the frameworks are explicit. The how is none of your business.
Because the linear how relies entirely on the known, and what you currently know is a tiny, localized fraction of existence.
The unknown is the 99.9% field of infinite potential. If you force reality to conform only to what you already know, you restrict your results to your past experiences.
You essentially tell the universe, bring me abundance, but only through this one specific job application I sent out.
It is an arrogant limitation of infinite potential. There is a brilliant anecdote that illustrates this perfectly.
Let us hear it.
A person was desperately looking for a massive career leap. For months, they tried to force the how. They sent out hundreds of resumes, forced networking interactions, hustled, and ground themselves down according to the do-have-be paradigm.
Kicking the rudder.
Exactly. Nothing worked. Every interaction felt frictionless, hollow, and forced. Finally, out of sheer exhaustion, they surrendered the how. They stopped kicking the rudder. They focused purely on the be-do-have state.
They cultivated the feeling of fulfillment, trusted the process, and maintained their frequency.
And then they got a completely illogical, nonlinear urge.
An inspired action.
Yes, not a logical career move, not a sudden urge to optimize their online profile, but a random, joyful urge to take a bicycle ride to a completely different part of town to visit a new coffee shop.
Their logical mind, their bouncer, probably screamed, "How is riding a bike gonna get you a job? You need to be sending emails."
Well, they chose the jungle path, they followed the high-frequency pull, and at that random coffee shop, they bumped into an old acquaintance who, completely unprompted, mentioned they had an opening for the exact dream position the person had been visualizing.
Wow. You cannot spreadsheet that kind of serendipity.
You really can.
You cannot micromanage the infinite variables of the universe to coordinate a chance meeting at a coffee shop at the exact right second. You have to relinquish the micromanager within, tune the frequency, and follow the breadcrumbs of inspired action, even if they look like a bicycle ride to nowhere.
If we synthesize this entire acceleration, if we look at the physics, the paradigms, the bouncer, and the law of balance, it leads to a profound shift in how we view ourselves as human beings.
We're not just biological machines grinding our gears, meant to simply endure the friction of a hostile, chaotic physical world until our time runs out.
No, we are so much more than that. We are at our very core, directors of energy and light.
We are conscious operators, interfacing with a field of infinite potential. True human potential is not measured by how much pain we can silently endure on the hamster wheel of the hustle culture.
It is not measured by the sheer volume of hours we can force ourselves to suffer.
It is measured by how purely, how consistently we can tune our inner frequency, our beingness, and how gracefully we can allow the outer physical world to inevitably reflect that state.
It is the ultimate return to sovereignty. You stop being the victim of the 0.00001% of physical matter, and you step fully into your role as the architect of the 99.9%.
Which leaves us with one final, unavoidable reality check. I want you to look around wherever you are right now.
Really look.
The room you are sitting in, the amount of stress you're currently carrying in your shoulders, the exact number in your bank account, the quality of the relationships you have. If all of this physical reality you are currently experiencing is nothing more than a delayed physical echo of the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs you were broadcasting 2, 3, or 6 months ago.
What exact reality are you setting into motion for your future self with the very thoughts you are entertaining at this exact second?
Are you paving the road you actually want to walk down tomorrow?
It is the most empowering and demanding question we can ask ourselves.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this in-depth exploration. Keep tuning that frequency, trust the delayed physics of the universe, and we will catch you on the next one.